How's it going, beautiful people? In today's video I'm going to be showing how you can update a PlayStation 4 to the specific firmware version 5.05, which is the version of the firmware you're going to want if you want to run the latest kernel exploit to enable Homebrew on your PS4. So luckily, updating to a specific firmware version rather than the latest is made pretty simple on the PlayStation 4 just using the USB update method. However, there are a couple of common problems that I see people running into when trying to do this. Specifically, a number of people have been asking what to do if their PlayStation 4 has already downloaded the latest 5.5 firmware files, and also a number of people who have been using previous kernel exploits like 4.55 have been running into this error message when they're trying to update their PS4 to 5.05 firmware. So I'm going to be sure to include the solutions for both of those situations in this video as well. Just before we get started here, it's worth noting that a PlayStation 4 can only be updated to higher firmware versions. So for somebody who's just bought a brand new PlayStation 4 and it's come with 4.74 firmware, this method will be able to help you update to firmware version 5.05. But if you're already running the latest 5.5x firmware on your PlayStation 4, or basically any firmware above 5.05, there is no way to downgrade, and this video isn't going to be able to help you get 5.05 firmware on that PS4. If you need help finding a PlayStation 4 running low firmware, I've got another video showing how you can get a PS4 with 5.05 or lower firmware, so you may want to check that out. Okay, so let's begin the update process now. So the first things that I recommend everybody does on their PS4 before updating, come into your settings menu here, and first head down to network, and just remove the tick from the box saying connect to the internet. We don't want the PS4 to be connected to the internet while we do this update. After that, come into the system area and just check your automatic downloads and make sure that just be sure to remove the tick from the system software update files option here. This setting is definitely a nuisance on any PS4 running low firmware, so I'd recommend that everyone removes this option if you're wanting to run Homebrew. Okay, so with those settings in place, next thing we're going to need to do is get the USB drive ready. So let's switch to the computer. Alright, so if you look in the video description, the first link is going to be a link to this darksoftware.xyz website, and on here we're going to need to download the 5.05 retail version of the PlayStation 4 firmware. I might actually just include a direct link to this website so that you don't accidentally get the wrong file, and all we need to do is save the 5.05 retail firmware. So here's that file saved on my computer. If you downloaded using the link that I gave you, you'll need to rename the file as well. Just call it PS4 update.pup, and that should be all uppercase. So you'll need to connect a USB drive to your computer, and you're going to want to make sure that it's formatted as exFAT. exFAT is the best file system to use for the PlayStation 4 because it supports large files, but either exFAT or FAT32 would work for just updating your PS4. So once you've formatted your USB drive, in here you'll just need to make a new folder on the drive. Call it PS4, all uppercase. Inside the PS4 folder, make another folder and just call it update. And this is where we need to send the 5.05 firmware update on the USB drive. And once that file's on the USB stick, you can eject it from your computer, connect it to the PS4, and we'll switch back to the PS4 now. Alright, so back on the PlayStation 4, make sure you've got the USB drive connected to the system. And then in the settings screen, choose the System Software Update option. And at this point, you want to make sure that it comes up saying, the following version of the system software is available, version 5.05. If it definitely says 5.05, you can just hit the next button and then click Update, and your system should then begin updating to 5.05. If it's coming up saying, do you want to update to 5.50 or the latest 5.53, however, this means that your system has already downloaded a higher version of the firmware, and it's prioritizing that latest version of the firmware from PSN rather than the files that you've got on your USB stick there. So definitely don't say next if it's saying 5.50 or 5.53. So what you should do instead is just hit the circle button on your controller to go back, then hold down the home button on your PlayStation controller, choose the power option in the quick menu, and then just turn off your PlayStation 4 completely. So when your PS4 has switched off, just go ahead and hold the power button on the system down. Keep holding it for about 7 or 8 seconds until you hear another beep. And then you can let go of the power button. So this will boot your PlayStation 4 into the safe mode. And you'll see this screen which is asking you to connect your DualShock 4 with a USB cable. So make sure you do that and then just push the PlayStation button. And then in this menu here, choose Update System Software, hit X. and then choose Update from USB Storage Device. And on this screen, it'll say connect the USB device that has 5.05 or later. And once you select OK, it's going to copy the update files from your USB to the internal storage, and then it's going to update your PlayStation 4 to 5.05 firmware. So the last update situation that I wanted to address is if you're trying to update your firmware to 5.05, but you keep seeing this error message. Now the people who are seeing this error message are usually people who have been using a previous 4.05 or 4.55 kernel exploit on their system. And what seems to be the cause of this is you've run an update blocking package in the past, or you've run a package which includes the update blocker in it, even if it's not specifically called that. So in that situation, I recommend browsing to your exploit page of choice. So for example, the user's guide Alazif exploit host here. Select your firmware version, say 4.55 for example, and you'll see in here there's the disable updates payload, which I think you've already run. And then there's also this enable updates payload. So if you're getting that error message, try running this enable updates exploit, and that will put your system back into a state where it's able to install an update file. So hopefully that should help everybody get to 5.05 firmware. Once your PS4 has updated to 5.05, make sure you check out my 5.05 kernel exploit video for the PS4, which just shows the simplest way of setting up the kernel exploit on your system, as well as demonstrates how you can install a fake package on your system. So that about wraps this one up. I hope this video has helped you update your PS4 to 5.05 firmware, and that you all can start enjoying some PS4 Homebrew now. If you're enjoying the PS4 content, stay tuned. My next upload's probably going to cover how you can install PS2 games on your PS4 running 5.05 firmware. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing. Enjoy the rest of your day, and peace out.